So hi everyone, this is Alex. Welcome back on this series of videos about weathering effects. Last time when we stopped, we finished adding grease effects, and I just moved on, adding different washes and stains and using oil pans again. And today what I wanted to do was adding some rust effects all around this part. Rust is all everywhere around us. Just take a look around and you'll see rust spots appearing whenever you have metal things like doors or vehicles, or well, basically everything. So what we're going to do today is adding these effects using two different techniques. The first one is using oil pens. So I'm still going to use these oil brushes from Mick Rimenez. So we're going to start with a ochre color to get the first base layer, and then we'll move on to a rust color, and we'll finish with a very dark brown color. Okay, and so this is going to be the first technique using oil pens, and the second technique is using this time enamel products like the light rust wash and the streaking rust effects, and the last will be an engine grime to get very dark spots. Again, I really advise you to be very careful when working with this technique, because it can really add, how can I say this, diffuse and unwanted effects if you are not very careful. So let's go, and we're going to start with the oil brushes. So what I'm going to do first is find a rusty spot. Like here we have a very interesting spot that I got using the hairspray technique. So again, I'm going to add a very small amount of paint on this surface right here, like this, and then I am going to blend this in. I'm going to add different layers. The first one is a very light layer of rust. So here again, I'm dabbing my brush in the thinner. I'm removing most of the thinner on my brush. I just need to get it very soft and a bit humid, and then I'm going to stipple this in the surface. Here the thing is, I want to keep this effect on a limited surface, and I want it to be very, very light. So I'm just, adding a small filter. I don't want to have a very marked effect on this surface. So basically what I'm doing is just pushing the paint all around the rust details, in order to get a very, very thin layer of rust, like this. All right, this is good. I'm going to dry this. Right, this is dry. So we have our first layer, which is very, very light, very subtle. It is just there to give the information to the viewer that this is rusty. Okay, next step is adding a rust color, still using the oil brusher rusts, and this time we're going to add very small dots of rust on the surface. So I'm going to be very careful now. I'm not going to use the inbuilt applicator. I'm just going to take a small amount of paint on my brush and add very subtle dots of rust all around the surface, like this. Okay, and now what we are going to do is take a zero brush, for example, get some thinner and remove it, most of it, on my paper towel, and then I'm going to blend this in very carefully. So here the thing is, I want to show that rust expanded, and it's a kind of old rust. It's an older rust, but it's not a very, very old rust. This is it. Okay, some paints went around. Okay, and I'm going to dry this again. So this is dry, and we have a second layer of rusts, which is realistic, in my opinion. This is looking good. And now we're going to add a very, very last rust effect on this. It's going to be a very old rust. So we are going to use a very dark brown. This time it's still using the old brusher dark brown. And again, we are going to add the paint. You just need to have very, very precise spots. And this is what we're going to do right now with the oil brusher. So this way, now I'm just, adding very, very small amounts of paints. I really don't want to stain the whole surface, and eventually I could even let it this way. And I'm not going to, this time I'm not going to use a damp brush. My brush is going to be very, very dry, because I don't want it to diffuse, and I don't want to go everywhere to spread. So basically I'm just barely touching the paint to give it some texture. But I'm really being very careful right now. I don't want to mess around and have stupid effects. Okay, this is it. Basically, this is the effect I was looking for. And once everything is going to be finished, this will be really how can I say it? Into the whole model. Right now it looks very good. I could have had some streaks, some rust streaks. We could do this. Of course, I'm going to still take this dark paint and draw a line, and then blend it. Oops. Just like this, and this is enough. Okay, I have just one rust streak, and this is good for me. Okay, second technique now. We're going to use the enamel product. So basically this is exactly the same steps. We're going to use the light rust wash at a very it's a very light rust. It's a very light wash, actually. It's very transparent. I still have a little product in this, and again we're going to blend this. Like this. This is very, very soft. Okay. And now I'm going to dry this, and in fact I'm going to add more product now. So I took some wash from the cap, from the lid. I really like it because it gives more texture. It's very dry. You see, it's like gunk actually, and I like it. It gives very, very interesting effects, because you have, well, nearly dried pigments in this, and this is exactly what I want. It really gives a nice texture. Okay, so I'm going to dry this. So we have our first layer of light rust, and still this time using the streaking rust effect. It's a darker color. Again, still using the same technique. We are going to add a smaller amount of enamel product that we're going to apply on a smaller surface, smaller area. Like this. This is enough. And then again, blend the effect. I'm concentrating it around the corners where it should be a darker rust. Okay, this is dry. And now, to finish, we are going to use the engine grime. Any dark color would do. I like this one very much because it has a gray tint, which is just perfect for the effect. So once again, cleaning my brush, taking the product from the lid, and this time I'm going to be adding a very small amount of product this way, just not more, and I'm going to blend this in. It is just like if you had a very dark old rust and it's actually showing the bare metal, and this is it. Now you have convincing rust effects, two different effects. The first one using the oil brushes, so oil paints, and the second one using enamel products. And as you can see, they are very close in shades actually, and this is exactly what you want to have. So remember, if you're using oil paints, artist oil paints, you should have a first base layer, which is very diluted, something which is really running, and stipple the paint on the surface, and then gum with a darker shade. Again, this one it's a bit thicker, and the last one is very thick. And actually, you can even draw on the different chips or the different rust effects. But basically, this is it. For the second effect, it's a bit more complicated since the wash is already quite liquid. But again, you go very slowly. The first light wash is this way. If you make a mistake, for example, if you add too much wash, there's no need to panic. Actually, you just go over it, get your brush with more thinner, remove some of it, and then come back. And this is exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to make a mistake. So let's do this. I'm going to add a huge amount of rust. So I'm getting large amount of pigments in my brush. I'm going to load this and simply just make the first mistake. Here, with this, it's okay. There's no real problem since it's our first layer. But if I really want to have it more subtle, I can just, take my brush and push the paint on the side and then start stippling. And this is the first the effect is still convincing here. If I go over and dry it first and start adding the rest streaking effects, still making the mistake of adding too much product like that, there is no reason to panic. Again, your brush is a bit more loaded and you just push the product, and this is going to be just fine. Try to remove most of the product from your brush and then start painting again, and basically you can get very convincing effects if you start stippling the paint around. But of course the effect will be more oversized and it's going to be less realistic in the end, but still the effect still looks good. And I could stop here, and I'm going to stop here. Okay, I could add the last effect with the engine grime, but I'm not going to do this. Okay, so it's up to you to decide which intensity of rust you want to have. You can only do a very light rust wash, okay, and decide this is brand new rust, it's okay, and then you can then move on to the next step if you want it to be a bit older or like this. So really, there is just, the possibilities are endless, and I could even just start working on this surface again and simply adding the rust streaking effects like this, and play with the paint. Oh, this was the wrong brush. And play with the paint, dabbing it, and bam, you have your effect. It's fast, it's very good. I like enamel products for this as well, because they are very liquid, and so they tend to take time to dry on the surface. So basically that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope I will see you again. Don't hesitate subscribing to the channel. Don't hesitate leaving commentaries. Don't hesitate asking me stuff that you would like to see. I don't know what I'm going to do next as a video. I will probably keep on working on the 4 legs, and maybe in the next video we'll start working with this huge beast, and see what we can do with this. Okay, thanks for watching. See you. Goodbye.